Hello.
Hey, how are you, Charlotte?
I'm
Hi,
fine.
Charlotte.
I'm good, thanks.
Hey.
How are you? How are you doing?
We
We're
are
great.
wonderful now, especially
Mhm.
now that we have you on. How are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your game, Charlotte.
Yeah. I'm Charlotte Sutherland. I've been working in the industry since about 2007, sort of at different companies, and decided I wanted to just start doing my own game. Really, sort of do something a bit different and sort of the sort of game that I'd like to play. So I came up with Lord Winklebottom Investigates, which is a 1920s point and click sort of murder mystery adventure, kind of inspired by Agatha Christie sort of classics and Sherlock Holmes stories, and also some old sort of like British films. So I'm trying to go for that sort of very kind of quaint, kind of old style way of sort of just the language and everything and the style of the characters. But they're all animals. So you've got a giraffe detective aided by his companion, sort of Dr. Frumple, who's a hippo, and they're solving the murder of an old friend of theirs, an axolotl, who has died under mysterious circumstances. And yeah, that came out in end of July this year.
I wanted to ask because Lord Winklebottom has some really fantastic comedy writing. So I was curious, what are some of your favorite funny games or games that might have kind of inspired this one?
I'd say, well, the main ones I'd say would Grim Fandango and also Cursed Monkey Island. I just like sort of quite sort of quirky sense of humour and stuff like that as well. But I've also tried to go for sort of a bit of kind of British deadpan style humour as well in there. So, but yeah, they were the main ones really. Grim Fandango and Cursed Monkey Island. They were also the first sort of point and click adventures that I'd ever played. When I first got a PC years ago, and yeah, just like the love of adventure games really carried on from there.
I gotta ask, why a giraffe? What
Um,
is it
it
about a giraffe that made him the star of the show?
um, well, I mean, originally it wasn't going to be like about a game. Initially, it was like I started to just kind of do some series of paintings after going to the zoo, and I just did like a fancy giraffe, like snooty looking giraffe, and I just felt that he lended himself to the main character because he looks quite snobbish and snooty and just like it seems like he could kind of stick his neck into places they're not really wanted and stuff, and it just kind of lent itself into that sort of old like classic sort of British murder mystery style thing. So yeah, I just yeah, it was just kind of a bit random really. I came up with like a giraffe as the main character. I knew I sort of wanted to do a game about animals, but yeah, it was just yeah, it wasn't really a sort of conscious decision to begin with. It's just that I felt that he fitted the role well.
It absolutely does. It's like the perfect choice. That's why I assumed. Oh no, yeah, I knew from the start it was going to be a giraffe because. But hey,
Yeah.
sometimes imagination just takes its own road. So
So, Jack knew from the start that it was going to be a giraffe, but did you know from the start that you were going to be having these characters as animals be the primary characters? Or is that something that kind of evolved along the way?
I mean, I did feel like, yeah, I wanted sort of animals from the onset, really, because I feel like everything sort of, I don't know, I feel like everything's improved with some animals thrown in. And I've just always liked painting animals generally, so like that, I kind of feel more comfortable with that art style as well, and painting animals rather than people. I feel like it sort of it maybe be a bit more serious sort of with animals. Sorry, with people in there. So I kind of wanted, yeah. Initially, I thought just adding everything. So I wanted it to all be animals. Sort of, it also kind of ties into the story as well. So I don't want to kind of have any spoilers, but it kind of ties in sort of with the story later on. So.
yeah, you've obviously been influenced by the classic British whodunits, Agatha Christie, I assume. Certainly
Yeah.
recognize that influence myself. Any other kind of standout influences for you, either mystery wise or story wise, art wise?
Um, I mean, art wise, it was more kind of classical paintings, like just classical portraits from that era. But story wise, there's also a lot of old Paul Temple stories that were radio sort of stories, and also some films. And it's just the kind of sort of stiff upper lip kind of style detection and stuff that goes on in them, and that sort of helped influence me a bit, as well as Lord Peter Wimsey, because that's like basically an old posh lord that goes around solving crimes, and that sort of really helped tie into it, because I tried to get a bit of Peter Wimsey in there, sort of from the radio adaptions and stuff from that. So they're kind of the main ones really, and also the Sherlock Holmes sort of Holmes and Watson dynamic. Right. I wanted that kind of thing where you could bounce off of another character, so it's not just sort of you as a solo sort of like going through the game. It's sort of he's got that kind of companion with him that you can sort of just talk to occasionally. It just adds a bit more sort of life to the game. So there's a few different things that have all kind of like, you know, combined to kind of have a bit of inspiration with it, really, sort of when it comes to sort of the old classical sort of British comedies and stuff like that as well. So thinking back on like Ealing comedies and stuff, and also a little bit of like Hammer horror sort of style stuff I've tried to throw in as well. So it's a kind of big sort of melting pot of a few different things that are sort of my interests that I've tried to kind of melt together and kind of come up with a story from that.
Great. I love the variety, because you just never, you think you're getting a grasp of what to expect, and then it throws something completely new at you. So that's fun. But why 1920s?
I was trying to think of, because I wasn't sure originally if it should have been like sort of Victorian time and stuff, just because of the way the character sort of looked really when I initially painted him. But I like the sort of detective novels and sort of stories from that 1920s, and it also kind of ties into sort of the Art Deco sort of era, and I kind of wanted to go towards that sort of beginning of the Art Deco sort of time period, and just kind of exploring the world. I thought it would be kind of more interesting to kind of just from an art point of view as well, kind of going for that 1920s sort of look, and just kind of like embellishing from there, really.
So it's inspired by Agatha Christie novels, Sherlock Holmes novels. They all had many, many novels that came out afterwards. Do you see this game having multiple games in the series?
I would like to, because I have plans sort of for the next game. I basically, to begin with, it was going to be called like Lord Winklebottom and the Case of the Expired Axolotl. But just from feedback, though, it seemed a little bit long, sort of as the title goes. So I still kind of refer to it as like the Case of the Expired Axolotl, but it's I liked him to have different cases, really, so there could be sort of sequels and different cases that can carry on from that. And I've had a few people sort of asking about sort of potentially like sequels and stuff, that people that have enjoyed the game, and I'm sort of really happy about that. That people are looking forward to stuff. It's one of the things where at the moment I'm just it's still kind of early days. Yeah, but that is definitely a route I'd like to go, though, is to try and do more cases for Lord Winklebottom.
You've previously worked for a lot of very high-profile AAA developers, Rare, EA, Telltale. I was kind of curious, how has your development process changed now working under your own studio?
It's I suppose it's a lot more laid back in a way, because I've at times throughout development I've had to kind of just put it on the back seat and stuff, because I've had like my husband's sort of had health problems and stuff like that, and various things obviously that's happened over the past couple of years and stuff. So I've kind of picked it up and, you know, just gone into it in dribs and drabs at times, sort of, and but that has also kind of made me end up working in the evenings and stuff like that, and weekends, when, you know, really I know that's not something you necessarily want to sort of do, really, and so I don't kind of work on it as like a set sort of 9 to 5 style job. I kind of have been fitting it in around sort of working part-time sort of elsewhere, and but it's allowed me a lot more creative freedom. Sort of, I prefer sort of just kind of coming up with my own sort of way of doing everything. Really, the only thing sort of I'd say is it's from the business point of view, sort of actually trying to like run it from the business side of things. I didn't really know much about that at all beforehand, and that sort of caused more stress, I think, than the actual development side. I kind of enjoy the development and sort of doing the artwork and that, but it's it's the actual trying to set up a business and more of those sort of style elements. I'd rather sort of kind of have someone else do that really, so that I can just concentrate purely on sort of development and art and stuff. But I've liked the more laid back sort of approach though of kind of developing sort of this rather than like the set working hours and stuff. So I'm just kind of a bit more free to do sort of stuff as and when I choose.
Well, my good buddy who goes by Adventure Game Geek on YouTube has been praising this game very much. And you know what? After that, and after you telling us about the game, I can tell you right now I'm going to play it. You've talked me into it. So tell us where we can find you and where we can get the game.
You can find me on Twitter at Cave Monsters and at Charlotte LS. And also, the game's available on Steam at the moment, as well as Nintendo Switch and Xbox, and it will be coming to PlayStation at some point next year. So it's going to be on everything, but it's Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and Steam at the moment. Oh, as well as Itch and Humble. Sorry.
Congratulations on the success and the more platforms that it's going to be adding to. And so.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Charlotte. We appreciate you, and you have an incredible, incredible adventure today.
Thanks very much for having me.
Team Giraffe.
Thanks.